Hey guys, Garrett back for Sableye the Mind Sculptor. Today, I just want to address why I haven't been uploading recently. My laptop screen is actually completely riggedy wrecked right now. I don't know if I broke it, maybe my dog or my cat did. Something happened, and when I checked it, the screen was completely destroyed. So I've ordered another screen, should get here in a few days, and I'll be able to fix it. So, sorry for being so mute about that. Probably should have uploaded something sooner. It's a pretty easy fix, so as soon as I get the screen in, I should be able to record again. But next, I was actually bored after not having anything to record for YouTube. So today, I just wanted to do something kind of like a podcast to talk about some concepts in Magic that I think newer players miss out on. I myself am pretty new to Magic. I mean, not vastly new. I'm fine at the game, I would say. But I'm pretty new. So if any of you guys have corrections for me, please put them in the comments below. I will not be offended. And without further ado, let's talk about value. So the first question is, what is value? Value is how many cards you get for each card you play, basically. So if I play one card that causes my opponent to lose 2 cards, that's a 2-for-1. In the same way, if I play one card that causes me to gain 2 cards, that is a 2-for-1. Examples of both of these would be Divination, which is 2 and a blue for a sorcery that says draw 2 cards, which is a 2-for-1, because for that one card, I get 2 cards. And the opposite would be Mind Rot, 2 and a black for a sorcery that says target player discards 2 cards. So for my one card, my opponent loses 2 cards, and it's a 2-for-1. This convention keeps going up and down. So for instance, if I spend 2 cards to get rid of one of your cards, it's a half-for-1, and not a half-for-1, it's a reverse 2-for-1, or a 1/2-for-1 twice, whatever you want to call it. A 1-for-1/2. There we go. Sorry, my brain's kind of scrambled and I'm not really scripted right now, so that's my bad. And a play where I use 1 card to get rid of 3 cards is a 3-for-1. And of course, 4 cards with 1 card, 4-for-1, keeps going and going. Anytime you are getting more than a 1-for-1, it is usually good. But both the cards I mentioned earlier, Mind Rot and Divination, are bad cards. Everyone knows they're pretty bad. So this seems contradictory, right? Like I said, anytime you get in a 2-for-1, it's good. But these cards are both bad. So why are these bad, whereas other 2-for-1s are good? These are bad because you have no control over what the cards are. So for instance, if I Mind Rot my opponent, they're not going to get rid of 2 cards that I want them to get rid of. They're getting rid of their 2 worst cards, as I would do if someone Mind Rotted me. If I Mind Rot an opponent and they have 5 lands in play and their most expensive spell costs 5 mana, they're probably going to discard 2 lands or some mana acceleration or something. There's going to be something useless in their hand for them to pitch. And if they have 2 useless things for them to pitch, I basically spent my Mind Rot to do nothing. It may be a 2-for-1 on paper, but because they pitched cards that they didn't want anyway, it isn't really borne out on the board that it's a 2-for-1. So, Divination. My opponent doesn't get to choose what I draw with Divination, so surely it's better. Well, technically yes, but when the deck chooses what you're doing, what you're drawing, it's iffy sometimes, I gotta say. You're getting random cards. So say I have 5 lands again, and my most expensive spell costs 5 mana. I cast Divination, draw 2 lands. Is that really a 2-for-1? Because those lands aren't useful to me. They aren't going to help me. They're just 2 random lands. So that's why things that may look like 2-for-1s on paper can be bad. The other bad thing about these 2 cards is that they're not efficient. 3 mana is a lot to pay for either of these effects, and the fact that they're at sorcery speed rather than instant speed makes them both significantly worse too. So I hear a lot of people talk about card advantage. What I don't hear a lot of people talk about is card velocity. So card velocity is how fast you are cycling through your deck, how fast you're getting to look through your cards. If I, for instance, cast Serum Visions, I get to draw a card and then scry 2. So I've gotten to look at 3 cards, rather than, for instance, if I cast Divination, it only lets me look at 2 cards. So, well, Divination has better card advantage, it's 2-for-1, whereas Serum Visions is a 1-for-1. Serum Visions has better card velocity, because I get to look at 3 cards rather than 2 cards. Serum Visions also has the distinct advantage that it only costs 1 mana. So, if you're casting a lot of cantrips, that is, a card which draws 1 card, and you're getting a lot of 1-for-1s, through your deck, you might not be generating the best card value because you're not generating the best card advantage, rather, because you're not getting any more cards than you started with, but you have good card velocity because you're getting to look at a lot of cards in your deck. Well, this may not be important to some decks. Certain decks just have a lot of redundancy, and they're going to have the cards they need, so looking at more cards isn't really helpful. This is generally like creature decks, or mid-range decks even sometimes, just have a lot of redundancy of good effects, and which one they have may not be particularly important in any situation. But a deck like Delver, which relies on answering your opponent's board a lot, or combo decks, really do need to be looking at more cards in their deck to find the pieces that they need for any specific situation. Okay, so now that we've got all that out of the way, there was one or maybe two more things I wanted to talk about before the end of this video. The first is, when is a 1-for-1 good and when is a 1-for-1 bad? So a 1-for-1 is good when you are trading a cheaper card for a more expensive one, usually. So, for instance, if I played a Emrakul, right? If I played an Emrakul The Promised End, and my opponent Stasis snared it, or my opponent, and they didn't have anything in hand for me to mess with on their turn, of course, or my opponent used a Summary Dismissal to counter my Emrakul and the trigger, that would be a good 1-for-1 for them. Because I paid, I don't know, 6-7 mana into my Emrakul just to make it happen, and probably 8 or 9. And my opponent played either 3 or 4 mana to shut it down completely. And they did it at instant speed, too, so they're not even wasting their mana on their turn. So the reason they come out better for that deal is because I have to waste my whole turn, probably, paying for this giant threat, and they can spend relatively little mana to completely shut it down, and then untap and do whatever crazy thing they're going to do to kill me. That's one of the reasons the card Lightning Bolt is so good in Modern. Lightning Bolt can kill a lot of things in Modern, and it does it for 1 mana at instant speed. The other reason it's good is because it's versatile, it can go dome and finish people off. That's kind of why the Modern format has warped around it to have more 4 toughness creatures, or creatures with 3 toughness are only the cheapest creatures. A 1-for-1 is of course bad in the reverse situation, when your opponent uses a cheap card to get rid of your expensive card. So, same examples all apply. The last thing I wanted to talk about was how much a creature is worth on this scale. So, is a creature a 1-for-1 because you traded 1 card in your hand for 1 card on the board? Are they more because they are a consistent threat? Are they less because they could die to a board wipe? So, kind of all of these. A creature is worth more when it deals more damage to the opponent, or blocks more damage from hitting you, or does some other utility thing. A creature is worth less when it is smaller than the opponent's creatures and it can't really do anything. Can't block because it's just going to die. Can't attack because it's just going to die, you know? And also doesn't have any utility, of course. So, if I play, for instance, let's give an example. If I play a card like Spell Queller, and my opponent untaps and just slams an Archangel Avacyn, I have not really made a card that's worth very much. My Spell Queller is a 2/3 that is going to protect me from taking 4 damage from an Avacyn hit once. My Spell Queller is never going to be able to attack through an Avacyn. It's never going to be able to favorably block an Avacyn. It is just a dead card on the board because their Avacyn exists. If I play a Spell Queller and my opponent plays, for instance, a Rattlechains, I have the card that is worth something, and they, with their Rattlechains, have the card that's worth nothing, because their Rattlechains is never going to be able to attack through my Spell Queller or kill my Spell Queller, no matter what. Just because I have the better creature, I get to dictate which card is worth more. Anyway, that's really all I had planned for this episode, so I hope to talk about more concepts in Magic that new players often miss in the future, because I definitely had fun doing this. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and give me suggestions for what I should talk about later in the comments. Other than that, expect more gameplay in the next week or so, and peace out.